Hello, AP students. I've discovered that I can embed a video in this, so I'm going to experiment and try that. It's kind of strange having me in the corner there, you might think, but we'll see. If you don't like it, let me know and say, Mr. Paul, we don't like your face right next to Hitler. It scares us, which that's going to happen soon. Anyway, okay. So can you guys turn your textbooks to page 929? 929, there's a nice timeline of events leading up to World War II. I'm not going to go in chronological order. What I'm going to do is just look at some topics. This is a very complicated thing to talk about. So what I'll do in this slide is just talk about the rise of fascism in a bit more detail. I just think that's good to know as a background idea. And then I'll get into some of the factors looking at behind the start of World War II. So looking a bit at the rise of fascism, a couple of points about fascism, and that is it rises during a crisis of democracy. So remember, especially through the 1920s, especially after 1929 when the stock market crashes. The stock market crashes in America. America is a democracy. And democracy and free market capitalism are very connected. So, democracy looks at the freedom of the individual to vote. It's a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And then it's like the same as free market. In free market, you have your private property and you can invest in it as you like. The market, the people decide what's produced and what's bought and sold. And it seemed like that failed. In 1929, it just seemed to have failed because the stock market crashed. So, crisis of democracy, people are looking elsewhere, saying, well, should the majority really be ruling? Just majority rule, just because 51% of the population thinks something should happen, should that really happen? Maybe that's not the answer. So, a fascist, one thing about fascists is that they're anti-communist and anti-capitalist. So, they're against communists too. They don't like communism. They think communism is a way to like push people down. They think it's a bad system. So they don't like democracy. They don't like capitalism. They don't like any of that. What do they like? Well, glad you asked. They like nationalism. So they are nationalists. They believe that their nation is the best. They are also totalitarian or at least authoritarian kind of government. So they say the government should be very strong. They believe in strong dictators that make things happen. If you have some good leadership, they believe if there's good leadership, then they will make stuff happen. Don't just rely on the majority of random people for things. Have a strong, strict government with strict rules, and they'll make things happen. So that is fascism, just to clarify more what that is. If you have more questions on that, let me know. Now, it can be confusing because fascist lean authoritarian or totalitarian even that far, and sort of communist. So a lot of people are confused like, wait, communists and fascists, aren't they the same? Like, what's going on here? Well, they're not. Their methods are the same. So both fascists and communists are willing to kill millions of people to achieve their ends. And both sides are willing to become very militaristic. Both ideologies are willing to do a lot of secret police and, get people out of their beds in the middle of the night and bring them to prison. Forced labor camps, they all do those things, but their ideologies are different. Their goals are different. The methods are similar, but their goals are different. So there's Mussolini. I guess he'd be above my head. Hilaire Mussolini. Okay. Mussolini, the classic fascist. Okay. Let's look at factors in the start of World War II. So I'm not going chronologically, just a couple of basics here. One is the Treaty of Versailles. So at the end of World War I, the Treaty of Versailles blamed Germany for the war. Now, there's just two problems with this. One is that it embarrassed and humiliated Germany in front of the world. So on the whole world, they say, "Hey, Germany, it's all your fault." So Germans are like feel bad. I mean, you have these nationalist Germans, and all of a sudden, oh, it's all our fault, and that's not fair. The other thing is, by being blamed, they also have to pay for the damages. So it's going to hurt their economy. So German economy is hurt. So their pride is hurt and their economy is hurt. They feel completely surrounded and oppressed, in a sense, by the world, which will cause problems later. They feel cornered. In fact, some people at the time even said that this is going to get worse. There's going to be another war after this because this peace treaty didn't really fix the problems that we had. Another factor is Japanese imperialism. So the Japanese, as they industrialized, they expanded and they wanted control of more resources to feed their industrial power. So remember, they fought, even at the turn of the century, they fought the Russians in the Russo-Japanese War. Before, they also fought the Chinese, and they're fighting, and they're very aggressive. They don't really need a reason to invade a place. They'll just invade it. They just say, "Hey, we're going to invade this place," and don't need to give a reason. So they're very aggressive in their expansion. In the Pacific Ocean and the Indian Ocean and China, and that's a worry. It worries everyone. They're much more aggressive than everybody else. I mean, there's other imperialist powers too, but Japan is much more aggressive than they are, which leads a country like the U.S. to actually do embargoes. They put an oil embargo. They try to pressure Japan diplomatically. Anything short of war, they pressure Japan to stop their imperialism. Doesn't work. Another reason is the Nazi Party and Hitler's ambitions. The Nazi Party has this racial idea that the German race is superior and that they should basically rule all of Europe. And Hitler himself personally loves power. He loves to be a dictator. He wants to rule all of Europe. So he has no limit on where he will invade. He just goes around invading places. I mean, look at the timeline there. Hitler is free to come to power in a violent way through riots, through forcing things to happen, through invading places, and that becomes a problem. So you see there in 1936, he invades the Rhineland, and then he helps the Spanish Civil War. In 1938, he annexes Austria. He just likes to invade places and take them over. Another reason is fascism. There is a rise of fascism. Now, fascists use violence to achieve their ends. So this destabilizes things. So if you have different European countries, they all have fascist parties within them. Even Britain has some fascists there in Britain. And they like to riot, and they'll destroy property to get their rule. That's how Mussolini came to power. Spanish had a civil war because fascists wanted to be violent and to achieve their goals. And this destabilizes a lot of things. They use violence to achieve their ends. So another one is resources and economic depression. So the need for resources is really a major background issue here. All these countries want resources to feed their industrial economy, but they don't have that, and a lot of countries don't really have the resources that they want. For example, Germany. Well, Germany's a good example. Hitler wants basically more farmland for Germany, and Germany, there's lots of people there that they want, farmland. So he feels like they should invade all of Europe and get it. So he has some vision to conquer Eastern Europe, get Ukraine, and make that like a German place. And he also felt like, if we invade Europe and Ukraine, the Slavs will all die out eventually because they're an inferior race, and the Germans will take it over. It'll be wonderful. So that's Hitler's idea. Anyway, also remember, through the 30s especially, there's a huge economic depression. So global economic collapse, remember, is all going on through the 30s. So that's the background. People are desperate in many ways. Another one is nationalism. Everyone's becoming nationalist now. It's a thing. And if you have this competition for resources and you don't have a sense of the other people are valuable also, it could lead to war. So everyone's becoming nationalists. Even the colonies, remember, even in India, there's a rise of Indian nationalism. There's a rise of Arab nationalism. Everyone's becoming more nationalist through this time, through the 1930s. And there's Hitler. Okay, so that's basically our slide for today. So I'll be thinking through what are the factors in the start of World War II? And what I would encourage you to do now is to read the timeline on page 929 and kind of see how the factors I'm saying relate to the progress of events. And that'll help you understand this much better.